Our second presentation is entitled Healing the Unseen. Psychology aligns with Christian values. Please welcome Sabrina Slay.
You are a Christian parent to teenagers. Your entire family is heavily involved within the church and lights within their community. But what if one day your teen suffers a life-altering trauma, which results in them having anxiety? Your teen is a strong Christian with unwavering faith. But no matter what you or your child does, they're still suffering physically and mentally for months. Anxiety begins to take a physical toll on their body, hindering them from functioning in everyday life. Your child can't sleep. They begin to have migraines that are so bad that they can barely stand up. You pray and you take your child to the church, but it's been months and they're still suffering. What would you do? Would you take your child to see a professional psychologist? Psychology can be defined as a study of the human mind and behavior by the American Psychological Association. Psychology, despite its philosophical roots, has evolved into a medical science that is healing for the mind. Many Christians believe that psychology is a secular way of healing spiritual problems. But others believe that the problems that psychology are meant to solve are not spiritual, but physical. There are so many arguments that Christians use to fight against psychology. One of the most common being that a therapist takes the role of a pastor. This debate has been happening for years, and there are so many arguments for both sides. But the question is still raised. Do psychological disciplines actually align with Christian values? Although many Christians believe that psychology is agnostic to a life of faith, I argue that psychology as a discipline aligns with Christian values in its pursuits of bringing healing to the human mind and integrating people within community. Mental illness can be extremely isolating. Isolation is one of the fundamental psychological and spiritual issues that needs to be healed of. It can cause people to draw away from community, which is not only harmful to their minds, but their souls, as God calls us to have fellowship with one another. This is proven in Genesis 2:18, when God says, "It is not good for man to be alone." One of the things that psychological disciplines are meant to do is to integrate people back within their communities through the healing of the mind. This is promoting healing not only for the mind, but for the soul. Second, in order to help someone else, you need to help yourself. You cannot adequately serve in a Christian community to the best of your ability if you are not in the proper mental state. And psychological disciplines are meant to get you back into that proper mental state. You could look at psychological disciplines like healing a broken arm. The arm must be healed in order to function well in the body. Psychological disciplines, healing the broken mind in order to function well in a community, is synonymous with healing the broken arm in order to function well in the physical body. In some cases, seeing a biblical counselor might be the best option, but in others, going and seeing a psychologist might be necessary for a person to be willing to be a part of and participate in a community. Furthermore, psychological disciplines are meant to heal the invisible injuries of the mind. These injuries are caused by physical breaks within the brain, or the brain working against itself. For example, serotonin is a chemical released within the brain that promotes a joyful and happy feeling. but there's also a process called a reuptake. This process is the reabsorption of a chemical by the cell that produced it, meaning that the cells that are producing serotonin within the brain are also absorbing it. This is causing depression, anxiety, and other mental illnesses. The emotional issues that psychological disciplines are meant to heal are not due to someone's spirituality, but due to the condition of the mind. It is a medical way of healing the mind. However, some Christians believe that the roots of psychology are bad. It is biblical to say that if the root of something is bad, then the fruit cannot be good. Andrew Womack, a well-known pastor in Colorado, uses this as one of his main arguments against psychology. He argues that psychology had its start with Sigmund Freud and Wilhelm Wundt, who were anti-religious and used psychological disciplines to push people farther from the faith. I will not be arguing that Sigmund Freud and Wilhelm Wundt were religious, nor will I be arguing in favor of all of their ideas. However, Womack's criticism is based on a faulty presupposition that psychology started with them, when in fact it didn't. Psychology's start was a Christian one, with one of its forefathers being St. Augustine. Psychology is littered throughout classical Christianity before it became a medical science. As Ellen Cherry, an American theologian, asserts, psychology is seen throughout classical Christianity because it is based on a biblically inspired understanding of the psyche, the self, and the soul. Augustine tied psychology into love, one's love for others, themselves, and God. He says that helping reorder one's love helps repair the mind. Augustine's thoughts and practices were revolutionary, changing the future of medicine. And his philosophies are still seen today. The Christian parents in our story about the suffering teen decided to take their child to therapy. And the psychiatrist even recommended medication. Slowly but surely, you watched as the teen's light came back, and they were able to lead a normal life. Of course, the anxiety is never truly gone, but they were able to function again. They were able to be a light for Christ within their community again. I pray that after this short amount of time that we've had together, if you don't already, you walk away with an open mind to psychological disciplines and less of a prejudice against them, coming alongside those suffering and supporting them through their trials. Thank you.